Mot Elson, cleric of Myrefall, goddess of life and death, moves like a spectre through the marketplace of Airedale, a small town in northern Ullord. The man stops, seemingly to examine the wares of a merchant's stall, much to the merchant's obvious discomfort at the cleric's intimidating presence. As Mott reaches out to grab a fruit and examine it, he listens closely to the conversation of two nearby townspeople.
I'm telling you, I'm hearing about weird happenings coming from just a bit to the east. Some of the merchants are talking about how there were some folks dressed in creepy costumes poking around near the cemeteries.
Out east? Isn't that about where Myrefall's at with that big old temple to Myrrah?
It is. What of it?
Just seems odd to me that someone, more than one someone's even, could be so brazenly robbing graves that near to such a large temple that it'd see that sort of thing as just downright heretical.
That's true now that you mention it. You'd think that they could sniff out that sort of thing happening right in their own yard, wouldn't you?
Without a word, Mott pockets the fruit he had been examining, then sets a handful of coins on the merchant's stall. As the cleric leaves, the merchant sighs in audible relief.
Oh good, he's gone.
Two clerics of Myrefall, Bion and Nasius, are on their return trip home. They had successfully destroyed a small nest of fledgling vampires, and are looking forward to reporting their deeds to the high priest in their home temple in Myrefall, a large town about 3 days from Airedale. Nasius is pulled off the path by a strange carving in a tree that had not been there a fortnight ago when he and Bion had set off on their task. Upon realizing that Nasius had left the path, Bion turns to follow his companion.
What's the matter, Nas?
There's something about this symbol. It's unsettlingly familiar.
Symbol?
Bion leans in for a closer look at the carving. After a moment of examining, he pulls away from it, feeling as if it was emanating an ominous aura.
This, seems like something we ought to report to the High Priest, Nas. Nas?
Bion looks around, sighing as he catches sight of his friend and comrade proceeding deeper into the woods.
Oh, of course you're heading in.
Defeated, Bion quickly moves to follow Nasius along the nearly non-existent path, deeper into the woods. Further down the path that the two clerics had taken sat a cave. Not far from that cave, men and women wearing attire not unlike the costumes alleged by the merchants of Airedale patrolled the area, seeking to ensure that their fellows within remained undisturbed. Behind them, a man approaches, unheard. Moving swiftly, he dispatches the guards that he had come across and moves towards the cave. Meanwhile, within the cave, a large group stood around the altar. The altar was constructed with bone, soil, and anything native to the surrounding forest. The group, dressed in yellow robes, looked down upon a fresh corpse. The corpse rested on the altar. It had little sign of decay, save the cold skin and the apparent stench of recent death. Ekim, the apparent leader, and the only group member whose attire was differentiated, raised an athame above the corpse.
Tonight, in your name, we give ourselves, our entirety. We are yours, O Great One who defied certainty, and who, in his ceaseless generosity, gave us the abilities to defy the inevitable. In your name we serve.
May death be defied. May death be defied. May death be defied.
Now please, appear to us, great Defier God. Come to the mortal plane and feast upon our mortal forms, for we are no more than blood and bone and flesh. But with your essence, we can transcend the certainty of life and death. In your name and image, we can take our fates, our futures, into our own hands.
May death be defied. May death be defied. May death be defied.
And in your honor, we will prove that the gods worshipped by the entirety of Ullord are finite, that there is power to be gained elsewhere, that there is glory in servitude. Yes, now please, hear our summons. We offer your reagents in this recently living person. Great Khacae, bring your will to us. Allow us the privilege of becoming one with you.
May death be defied. May death be defied. May death be defied.
With the ritual of the cult of Khacae completed, Nasius and Bion look at each other with barely concealed dread.
Perhaps we should have informed the High Priest about this.
Oh, you don't say. Hopefully we can get out of here to do something about this.
We'll be fine. We got in without being noticed. We can get out just as easily.
Lacking in his friend's confidence, Bion nevertheless shakes his head in resignation as he and Nasius begin their quiet exit. Two clerics of Khacae block the two Mera clerics' path out of the cave.
I never thought one of them would actually be this stupid, let alone two of them.
They're Mara clerics. They believe life is horrible, and then you pass on, and that is how things should be, and that is valuing life. You should know they can't be that smart.
You have so very much wrong, and we don't have nearly enough time to tell you why.
As soon as the words leave his mouth, Nasius moves forward to punch one of the guards out of his and Bion's way. Felkis reacts and moves to stand behind Klara.
What are you doing?
Just have the others take care of them. I need some time to prepare my magic. You should know that.
Fine. Take these blasphemers down in the name of our great, loving god Khacae, he who grants us our everlife.
That can't be good. Do you see what your impetuousness gets us into?
Lecture me later. We have a cave full of these heretics to deal with.
The group of Khacae clerics quickly surround the two Mera clerics. Nasius eyed the group of Khacae's worshippers carefully.
So I think we could each easily handle about half of them, don't you?
Gods, to have your unrelenting confidence. But we certainly aren't going to let them all leave here alive.
Well, that's rude, underestimating us like that.
Perhaps worry about keeping them busy for me.
Oh, right.
Klara conjures a magical orb between her hands.
This should suffice.
Well, that likely isn't good.
Bion conjures a sphere of light in the palm of his hand and turns towards Klara. Klara launched her magical attack at the larger of the two Mera clerics. She quickly conjured another soon after. Bion counters by launching his magical blast at Klara's. All the while, Nasius fights against the nearby Khacae worshippers. Dodging blows or else deflecting them with his gauntlets, the large cleric of Mera lashes out to strike at the followers of Khacae nearest to him and Bion. Dunya, one of the other followers of Khacae, turns toward the scuffle. She turns to Ekim, their group's leader.
High Priest, the ritual to summon our Lord has been completed, but he has not yet appeared, and these Mera clerics are proving troublesome.
And? What consequence are they to us now?
They have served the great god, the same as you and I, and at this rate they may all be dead before they get their reward.
Our great god will still show up when he pleases, but he will raise the fallen who have given their mortality in his name. We simply have to believe that Khacae will appear to us.
You seem certain of that.
Simply prepare yourself to fight them. If we kill them for the great god, imagine how pleased he will be to have two Mera clerics forever in his service after their death.
That would please him very much.
After the Mera clerics stave off the assault from most of the Khacae clerics, Klara backs up to Felkis.
Please tell me you're ready to take them down now.
Patience is a virtue.
Felkis continued grinding the various ingredients into fine powders. Klara stares at the Mera clerics with incredulity.
As of now? No, it's not. Finish the damn thing!
You have no appreciation for my craft.
Bion, can you do anything about those two in the back?
Nasius barely avoided yet another blow. He felt the light breeze as the weapon moved past him, causing him great alarm.
Oh, because there are too many of them for me to fight over there.
I'm trying, but it's not easy when these cultists are managing to slip around you.
I would really like to not die if I don't have to, damn it.
Felkis poured the powder into his gloved hand. The Khacae cleric then threw the powder into the cave.
Carry my will and force it onto them, my enemies.
The powder was carried on an abrupt wind to the two Mera clerics. As the powder reaches the two clerics, Nasius feels his legs begin to buckle under him.
Oh, this isn't good.
Hexing powder?
With those words, the two clerics collapse. The remaining Khacae clerics gather around the Mera clerics.
Do we want to kill them?
What fun would that be?
Then what are we to do with them?
While the Khacae worshippers stay silently deep in thought, the temperature of the room instantly becomes freezing.
Mock her with her clergy.
The Khacae clerics turn and look to their god.
You graced us with your presence.
All of the Khacae worshippers drop to their knees.
Yes. If you could not handle these blind followers of Mera, then you were not worthy of what you have called the eternity bargain. Turn them into undead servants.
Yes. Lord Teich.
The two Mera clerics, conscious and unable to move, lay on the ritual altar. The servants of the god of necromancers prepare the reagents needed to perform the ritual to turn the two Mera clerics into the undead.
We still get to kill them, right?
Of course. Something must die before it becomes eternal at the hands of Khacae.
Good. I cannot wait until we get to feel their warm blood turn cold on our hands.
Listen, Mera, please save us.
Mera has to protect us from this. She would never let anything like that happen to her clergy.
Outside the cave, Mott Elson, wandering pilgrim and cleric of Mera, locates the entrance. In his wake are many of the Khacae worshippers who had been serving as guards and patrollers. The heavily scarred man peers into the cave, hoping to learn what he could expect to face within. His eyes settle on the altar at the back of the cave, and the barely moving silhouettes atop it, narrowing in anger.
I am in time to stop at least some of their blasphemy.
The cleric takes several steps forward and closes his eyes. A magical circle forms around his feet as he prays to Mera.
Life, death, and rebirth as you wish it to be.
In the ethereal realm, the home of the gods of Ullord, Mera sits with her fellow deities, Barbas, Mikael, and Tahir. The quartet had come together for conversation and tea.
So, Mikael, it occurs to me to ask...
What about, dear Mera?
These pets of yours that you are so fond of, Draggy and the Thunderbird, I have never seen them.
Yes, and your point?
I simply have to wonder if they truly one moment, please. A precious follower of mine is calling for my aid.
With that, Mera sets down her cup of tea and disappears.
Ah, peculiar. I do wonder what it was she planned to ask about my beloved pets.
I am certain she will ask when she returns.
Though I must wonder what sort of prayer could be so important that she would drop everything to answer it.
She did claim it a precious follower of hers, so I am positive it is something of the utmost importance.
Given how much she loves all mortals, I have to wonder what makes this particular one so precious.
We can ask her when she returns, I am certain.
In agreement, the three gods nod and begin to sip at their teas. Moments later, Mera returns, visibly panicked and concerned.
All of you, please, come with me now.
Mera, what is the matter? Why do you look so worried?
Worried? I would qualify this as her being more terrified.
Terrified? The goddess of life and death? What would she need to be terrified of?
I suppose we will find out.
Just come with me, and you will see.
With those words, Mera once more disappears. The remaining deities pass the situation, looking to one another briefly before they follow after Mera. On the mortal plane, Mott Elson unleashes another torrent of divine flame into the collected worshippers of Khacae. Empowered by the touch of his patron deity, the cleric of Mera had been making substantial headway against the seemingly innumerable necromancers present. Still, he has much standing between him and his goal of rescuing the captives on the altar. The god of the necromancers looked on in frustration as the lone Mera cleric cut through his army of followers.
How much power does one of you need to strike him down? Quash the Mera pest, or the eternity bargain is out of the question. He won't let any of it happen.
Yes, but how are we to fight him? It's as though he was blessed by Mera herself. He does not tire. He does not waver. He does not stop.
By knowing that we have more faith in our merciful god Khacae than any one mortal could have in Mera. By knowing Khacae loves everything we do, and that our god, our patron leader, would not condemn us for the abilities we were born with.
The second in command of the group produced her wand. She looked around at the fallen and smiled.
Carry my will and force it onto them, my enemies.
The necromancer waved her wand. The fallen followers of Khacae were soon animated. The dead pushed themselves up, and despite the state of their bodies, stood where they had died only moments prior.
Of course.
Mott angrily brings down his scythe, slamming the blunt end of the weapon against the floor of the cave. Holy fire erupts around him, serving as a barrier between himself and the risen necromancers. The cleric contemplates his position as he examines the room. From the spot near the entrance of the cave, where Mott had stood when calling for Mera's aid, a bright light shines forth as the four deities step onto the mortal plane. Mera, still frantic as she searched the room for sign of her clergy. Mikael, curious as he sipped at the tea that he had brought along with him. Barbas, enthusiastic about the sensations swirling in the air. Tahir, frustrated for much the same reasons as Barbas.
So, what is happening that was so urgent, Mera?
Ugh, and why is the air so thick with self-righteous indignation?
Yes. What is this wonderful place you have brought us to?
Khacae.
Mikael, tea still in hand, frowns deeply.
That would explain the rather large, unpleasant-looking fellow in the back, then.
And the presence of your clergy explains all of the fear.
And all of them explain the self-righteousness.
And I already know how I can be helpful here.
Please, do.
The god of fear stepped forward. After a moment, he knelt down. Barbas then brought his hands together and pulled them apart. Between his palms was a red-colored orb. The fear god set down the orb, then stood.
Who are they?
And what is he doing?
Come here, girl. Come here.
After a moment, the orb took the form of a small canine.
There's a good girl. Go. Have fun, fetch.
The small canine turned towards the mortals. She took off running toward the ritual area. After a moment, the canine took the shape of a giant arachnid.
And what, may I ask, was that?
And why is his name Fetch?
She's a Rougarou. A monster that turns into whatever mortals fear most. And her name is Fetch because I make her fetch mortals who have disappointed me. Like so.
I see. How curious, this pet of yours.
And she knows not to harm my clerics.
Those ones are already living their worst fears. Or rather, they were about to.
And Mott?
The one you blessed, who has himself wrapped in fire?
Yes, that one.
I like him. He is complex. Your other clerics here are, too. I wouldn't worry about it. Fetch cannot take the form of what they fear. They'll be fine.
That is good to know.
So, how would you like us to handle Khacae?
If we should successfully remove his followers here from the equation, that ought to make Khacae himself no threat to us.
Well, some of them are preoccupied. What else is there to do?
Perhaps we give this mutt a hand in dispatching them as well.
I personally want nothing to do with any of these self-righteous mortals.
There's a good girl. Go. Have fun, Fetch.
I suppose so.
Personally, I believe this is a good time to allow one of my pets to stretch as well.
Mikael snaps his fingers, a summoning circle appearing beside him. From within the circle, a small wyvern crawls forth out of the ethereal plane. The god of war smiles broadly and stoops down to pet the wyvern's head.
Ah, who's a good boy? It's you, isn't it, Draggy? Yes, you are.
His dragon does exist.
More of a wyvern than a dragon.
Bite your tongue! Draghi is a magnificent creature, and I will hear no disparagement of him. Don't you listen to them, Draghi. You are a phenomenal little dragon. Do you want to play?
The wyvern trills happily.
Excellent! Then go play with those mortals over there. But do be gentle with the spider creature. That's Barbas' pet.
With another happy trill, Draghi flaps his wings and begins to move forward towards the worshippers of Khacae. Meanwhile, Khacae, looking around at the chaos caused by the gods' interference, decides to take action himself. With two of Mera's followers incapacitated and the third preoccupied, he sets his sights on the two. The necromancer god makes his way across the room toward the two Mera clerics.
Oh, you two will make fine additions to my followers.
What is this heretical creature talking about?
It's not gonna hurt us. It's not gonna hurt us. It can't hurt us. Mera will protect us.
Khacae reaches down and touches each of the clerics' faces.
Oh, you are so big. Probably strong. And you... If I let you keep just enough of your intellect, you can still use magic. Yes, I think I will do that. My new pets.
We are not becoming his pets. Mera will protect us.
Life, death, and rebirth as you wish it to be. Life, death, and rebirth as you wish it to be.
Don't fuss. It will all be over in mere moments.
The necromancer's god cradles the faces of the two Mera clerics.
So, Mera, those are two of your clergy, yes? Would you perhaps like us to stop Khacae from doing whatever it is he's planning to do?
If you can, do so. Of course, if he plans to take my followers...
Mera reaches out, her essence seeking out the souls of the fallen worshippers of Khacae.
Then perhaps he will not be so bothered if I should take his, and give them to the afterlife that they deserve as my children.
The fighting continues with Khacae followers attempting to stave off the assault of the two pets of gods. Barbas' fixedness on the two divine pets is immediately interrupted. The fear god appears at the source of intense terror. He looks down at the helpless Mera clerics, and then at the necromantic patron.
No. I wouldn't do that if I were in your position.
Get in my way, and you open up your clergy to my wrath.
I'd look at my surroundings before I slighted yet another god.
What?
So few who believe in your powers and promises are left alive. And the ones who are still breathing, they're preoccupied with my domain.
Khacae looks around at the remainder of the clerics who had summoned him. Barbas seizes both of Khacae's wrists.
You insignificant excuse for a god. Your domain is the creation of mortals, terrified to the point of despondence, with no hope or reason left in their hearts. Your existence is not a counterpoint to Mera's. It is simply a plagiarized bastardization of me. Remember that as you wallow in sorrow at the thought of your useless excuse for clerics.
What happened? When did Barbas get over there?
And rather more to the point, Exactly how messy do you think it will be if Khacae does not listen to his warning?
I can hardly leave with you still restraining me.
Barbas looks down at Khacae's wrists.
You're a god, right? You can willingly disappear and reappear at will, then.
Carry my will and force it onto them, my enemies. Lord Khacae!
The necromancer's god appears at the side of his follower. A brief moment later, he and the necromancer disappear from the cave. Mera takes a slight breath as she realizes that Khacae has left.
Oh, thank you all for your assistance.
Of course! You are our fellow god. We would not allow your clergy come to harm from such a foul creature.
Bion and Nasius, after a long moment, realize that the threat of the heretical creature and its followers had passed. Slowly, the two sit up and begin to stand.
That all just happened.
Yes, it did. And the two of you are lucky like you would not believe.
Do you see what your impetuousness gets us into?
You two feel less terrified. Most mortals put into this situation are not so calm.
Nasius and Bion turn to face the god of fear.
What situation? Oh, blessed Mera.
The two clerics turn towards the front of the cave, where the other gods stand.
That would be me, yes?
Not necessarily the quickest on the uptake, are you?
In fairness, they did just nearly live out their greatest fear. I can understand that they may have been preoccupied.
The three of you probably want to return to your mortal affairs. I'm not going to be the one to keep you from that.
Yes, thank you.
Mott Elson, having long since dropped the barrier he had formed, approached the trio of gods at the cave's entrance. He knelt in deference before Mera.
It is, as always, a pleasure to serve you.
Oh, Mott, always such a polite mortal. Please do stand. You know no such formalities are required.
Not so long as they prove to be better than the necromancers that were here moments prior.
The fear god kneels down and motions for the Rougarou to return to him.
You should be proud to have such polite clergy, Mera. Now do come here, Draggy.
The wyvern trills in happiness as it bounds over to Mikael. The god of fire, forge, and war kneels down and sets his tea aside as he hugs the creature and fondly pets its head.
So, if our business is concluded on this plane...
Yes, if the three of you are all right.
Actually, it's not. Nobody can tell him about any of this.
Of course not. We will not hear the end of it for several millennia, at least.
Mott looks confused at the gods as he stands once more.
Him? Oh, pray Mott. He just loves meddling with your mortal affairs, and takes great pleasure in mocking most of us, if there is any hint that we enjoy doing the same. However, where the three of you all have things to hide from the god of deception, I merely observed. I have no reason not to speak of this to him.
You would not dare.
For now, no. But Who knows what the future may hold? But for the time being, I shall return to the ethereal plane. My tea is almost certainly cold by now.
And with those words, the god of virtue disappears.
That's why I brought mine with me.
If he does tell Paymod, we simply have to do something that will make Tahir take action to protect one of his clerics. Like let Fetch here into one of his temples to cause some havoc. Oh, you can cause havoc, can't you? Yes, you can. Who's your good little ghoul?
I would be amenable to this agreement. I would not want to put Draggy or Thonk into harm's way by having either of them do the same.
Draggy? Thonk?
Oh, yes. The mortals are still here. Draggy is this magnificent dragon you see here, and Thonk is my pet Thunderbird. They are both my dearly beloved pets, and they do mean so much to me.
Nothing will happen to Fetch here. Because she can only be truly rid of by my hand. And that is not going to happen, is it? No, not at all. Because you is a ghoul.
So, I do believe we ought to leave these mortals to their affairs now, shall we?
Oh, yes, of course. How foolish of us.
Mikael reaches down to pick up his tea.
Come along, Draggy. It's time to go home.
Draggy trills happily.
Yes. We have tea and sweets to return to.
Barbas picks up the Rougarou, then disappears. Mera and Mikael, the latter holding Draggy in one arm, follow soon after, leaving the three clerics of Mera alone with the many fallen worshippers of Khacae.
So that... I'm still not entirely sure what just happened exactly, but we're alive. That's the important thing, yes?
Yes. And the two of you were lucky I had heard rumors of this cult.
Mott approaches the other two clerics.
Because otherwise, rushing headlong into a cave full of necromancers would have proven to be the greatest mistake of your lives.
I agree. It was exceedingly foolhardy. Don't you agree, Nas?
Perhaps. But as a result, we did get to meet Mera and were personally saved by her intervention. So it wasn't entirely bad. Come, we aren't far from Myrefall, and I believe all of us require some rest after that ordeal. So, shall we, Bion? I don't believe we've properly introduced ourselves.
I am Mott Elson. You are Bion, and... Nas?
Nasius. Nas, however, works for short. So, shall we?
Without waiting for a reply, Nasius exits the cave and begins the return trek towards the trail that leads to Myrefall. Bion and Mott follow soon after. In an alcove in the nearby forest, the necromancer god and his sole surviving follower from the group who had summoned him sit.
What will you have me do first, my patron god?
I will have you make the fallen followers of my name into your own personal guard. Let they of little faith have some use to us.
Yes, as you wish. But what of the Mera followers?
We will return to complete your eternity bargain later today. And then you create your undead guards. And lastly, we find you a remote area to begin your own sect of my church.
Your wish is my command, Lord Khacae.